Klaus Schwab is gone. He is no longer the leader, effective immediately at the World Economic Forum. Now, typically, we would think, well, he's 88 or 90, something like that. It's time for him to go. It's just ironic that it happens at the same time that the Pope passes away. There's a story that came out and broke just a few days ago about these two gentlemen. We'll discuss it because it's kind of weird that all of a sudden, coincidentally, one steps down and one dies. That's crazy. Now, the thing is, the person coming up behind him may be a little bit more sinister, and we'll discuss him. Also, we're going to talk about a Democratic leader, how she brought up Arab American heritage yesterday, not Easter. You know, we talked about this with Keir Starmer. We talked about this with other areas in the world and how America has done better because we had a president that was, wishing everyone a happy Easter. But here's the thing. Your Democrats are not doing that. Google decided not to put anything on their website about Easter, but they'll put it about like Heritage Month. They'll put about Arab Heritage Month, but nothing about Easter. Isn't that a little weird? Also, the fact that Democrats are coming out and not wishing you a happy Easter. They're wishing you all of these other celebrations. What does that actually mean? That shows that if we're not careful, we could be the next hero. And then lastly, we're going to talk about China. I think China is pushing a stern warning against America right now because of the state of their economy. If you just hold on, if everybody would just wait on these tariff things instead of listen to the media, I believe you're going to see some major changes happening very soon, and it's actually going to benefit America. We've got some numbers about China and things going on there, and now how it's on the brink of economic collapse. We're doing okay. Our dollar's struggling. It's okay. Hold. And I believe just like you would typically do when you bluff in poker, I think you're going to see something really come out very soon. Let's dive into these stories and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. You can see I've been running. It's been a hot one today and sweat. So if you, get outside, do some things, get some exercise in. It's good for our bodies. Now let's jump into the video of the day. First, let's talk about what happened throughout the early morning. There's a notification that the Pope has passed away, and again, condolences for him and his family. Now, the thing that I want to pay attention to is this. First of all, I'm just going to state the obvious. As a Christian, I'm a evangelical Christian. I'm not against Catholicism or the Pope, but I believe when we put so much power in one man, it's kind of scary because it shows that we're all fallen men and we're not God. And so therefore, I always get worried when I hear about things about the Pope. But I do want to bring up a story. And the reason I want to bring this up, I really was not going to talk about the Pope at all today because it's just not that big of a concern for me and who they appoint. I know it's a big deal for a lot of people, but it's just not for me. But one thing was a little strange. You know, this guy was a pretty good liberal. And they said last week, knowing he was sick, the Vatican put out that he was going to talk to the vice president about how they needed to make peace in Palestine. Now, as someone who is, I'm supposedly on their deathbed, not doing well, and as liberal as he's been with genders and with liberalness of different beliefs, I hope that Catholicism, and I hope Catholics move back to a better conservative Pope, by the way. But he's pushed a lot of things that were not completely biblical based. And I think a lot of Catholics believe that too. I want you to listen to what the report just came out though. And this came out just a few days ago. I just thought it was very, very coincidental about all this going on. What are the chances that Klaus Schwab resigns from the World Economic Forum at the same time that Pope Francis has passed away? Now, why is that a big deal? Listen to this. This came out just a few days ago. International criminal attorney who established a Corona investigation committee has determined that Pope Francis was in cahoots with Klaus Schwab. It says that they were looking to try to build a form of a world government with United Nations. I don't know about you, but that's a little revelationist in the time things, like biblically prophetic. It's weird that all of a sudden he died. Now, do we know if that's true or not? We don't. But based on the stories, I think it's just very, very coincidental that all of a sudden this man passes. And then on top of that, Klaus Schwab resigns immediately, effective immediately. Not a window, not anything. I mean, he's off the board of trustees, he's off the board of directors, and he's out as the leader. So is there something crazy at it? I don't know. Now they said there's two guys that are that could kind of look like the next chosen one for the Pope. One of those is extreme conservative. The other is not. He's a lot like the Pope we just had. So I'm hoping that Catholics, I hope that you stand up. If you're a Catholic watching this, I hope that y'all stand up and that y'all push for a conservative leader. Because I do think there's some good changes happening. And I do believe that Gen Z, they said Gen Z, men in Gen Z are tired of playing around. So you see them either going completely away from God, or you're seeing them sold out to Christianity and conservatism. I hope and pray that there is a conservative leader coming up in the Catholic movement that will not play both sides or try to play in the middle like this Pope did. But this was a little concerning. Now, the kicker is this. The guy coming up behind Klaus is a guy named Yuval Harari. If you haven't looked into this guy is absolutely creepy. He's more sinister and creepy than Klaus Schwab. He was his protege, complete atheist, has a lot of other weird beliefs. And if that's the case, and there's money still flowing to these people, remember, we cut off funding to world wealth. Trump did. But every other country in the Western European NATO alliance is still giving money to this guy and to this committee. And a lot of rich oligarchs and billionaires across the world are doing the same. So if we keep allowing these people to have power, I still believe that one world government that they're pushing for, this new world, is going to keep on trying to come forth. I'm glad it didn't happen this time, and it could have been just coincidental of all this stuff. But the bottom line is, it's still a dangerous organization, and we need to pay attention to it and watch this next guy coming up, because he's a lot younger and he has a lot more knowledge of being more sinister than even Klaus. Now let's move on to our leaders, and this is what I warned you about in the Easter video. And if you didn't go back and watch that, you need to watch that, because it shows that there's good things happening, but there's still people across the world, across the globe, especially when it comes to like the UK and European countries that we would consider quote unquote our friends, that are not leaning on Easter resurrection and really pushing the fact of a special holiday for a majority of the world, or it should be anyway. But listen to this. The mayor of Los Angeles, instead of putting out a message yesterday about Easter and about the resurrection or anything like that to honor just what the world is dealing with, listen to what she put out. This April, we honor the rich cultural contributions and diverse histories of the Arab Americans and their impact in the vibrant multicultural landscape of Los Angeles. Now, she could have put this out all April, huh? It was supposed to be a heritage month for April for Arabs. But no, she chose to put it out in a spit on the Christian faith on Easter. Now, these are the people that's leading you. The same person who was in Africa when her city was burning down. The same people that people are running away from Los Angeles and running away from California. They're losing tons of their infrastructure because of these kind of leaders. So we talked about Keir Starmer talking about the same thing, pushing Islamic faith and persecution on Christians yesterday on Easter. And now we see our leaders doing the same thing. Los Angeles and the mayor of Los Angeles, we think, well, it's just a mayor. I mean, what does that mean? That's one of the biggest roles in the United States, because it's a mayor of a major city and a major player across America. We have to pay attention to this. This is the kind of, and again, I go back to this, and this kind of goes back to the conservative movement and the Congress. What has Congress, Bondi, or anybody done to actually hold people accountable for the crimes or the things that they've done, or the fraud that they've been part of? We talked about Letitia James, that's good. Fannie Willis, that's good. But no one else. Now, this lady knowingly caused problems to have issues with the fires, and then all of a sudden, we see that everybody's just laxed about it. They were like, oh, she's going to be impeached. She is worthless, no good. They're going to kick her out. She's still mayor and doing fine, and now making really a derogatory pitches to the Christian faith. At the same time, Google yesterday, every holiday, every special little occasion, every Heritage Month, every day of visibility, everything, Google, man, they make their title all formed based on what is going on for that season. If it's Black History Month, if it's Indian History Month, if it's Mexican History Month, if it's Latino Month, if it's this month or this day or this day. Yesterday, plain old Google. Nothing special about yesterday, huh? You would think that they would just honor the people that believe the way we believe. This is why you can never put your guard down. No matter what you think, when you think everything's going good, don't put your guard down, because there's still a ton of evil even in America. Pay attention. Again, prime example, and these were not talked about in the intro, but 2 stories that I thought was just unbelievable, and that, again, no one hardly has talked about. New Mexico judge steps down after gang arrest at his home. A New Mexico judge had to step down because they raided his home and realized that he was helping. ICE realized he was helping trend gangs. Weapons and the trend gang that we're trying to get rid of in America, he's housing them in his house. You think that was a corrupt judge? You think the cartels don't have power here? This is why we got to get these activist judge and all these, we need to find out the back money to all these people in leadership. Because you think this guy was going to rule against immigration? You think he was going to rule against deportation? No, he's housing the gang members in his house. Corruption at its best. Now, I'm glad he's stepping down, but there should be more than stepping down. He should be thrown in prison. And again, let's see what Bondi does. I have not seen any arrests yet. He gets to step down and have a pension, and we get to pay him for the rest of his life when he literally was housing a gang and illegal weapons in his home in New Mexico. Come on. And listen to this. I want to just go over these numbers. And this is where I believe that the government is out to stop Trump. And actually, that's why the tariff thing, you need to, don't listen to people on the tariffs. Don't listen to people on all this stuff that Trump's doing. They're like, oh, it's chaos. It's not chaos. Listen to this. Bill Clinton, he deported 12.3 million. He deported 12.3 million. Not one judge brought an injunction against him. Zippo. George Bush deported 10.3 million. It's funny how Bill Clinton deported more than George. 10.3 million. 0 injunctions by activist judge. Barack Obama, 5.3 million. He deported 5.3 million. 0 injunctions. Now listen to this. Donald Trump's first 100,000 deportations this year. First 100,000. He's had 30 injunctions by activist judges against him. You don't tell me they're using the legal and the legislative branches against our president? This is why Pam Bondi, if she cannot step up to the roles and actually do her job, she needs to be out. It's amazing how we have a good leader, and for some reason he sucks at picking attorney generals. And again, I don't blame Trump, but I'm thinking whoever's in your ear between Barr and what's the guy, Sessions, and then Bondi, you better get you a stalwart. You better put Stephen Miller in there, and let's start actually doing something, because these judges are going to keep working against Trump until we have an attorney general willing to stand up and start making arrests and start doing something other than what they're going to do at a Tesla dealership. It's ridiculous. Again, 100,000 deportations, 30 injunctions by judges. The other 3 presidents add up to be over 25 million deportations, and not one single judge from either side stood up against them, even Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Now I want to make a mention of China, and then we're going to talk about our dollar and the importance of what's going on in our markets. China came out and issued a stern warning to United States partners, saying, look, just like we did last week when we said that quit doing business with China, do business with us, we'll help fill the gaps. Well, China's saying, look, if you're trying to do that with who I do trade with, meaning they're saying the same thing. If you start doing business for America and try to help them get the end around against their tariffs and try to help them get what they're needing, we're going to cause problems for you. So now we're still in this all-out trade war. Now, why do you think China and America are escalating so much? America wants a better trade deal, but why is China actually worried about this so much? What is the big deal? Well, here we go. China is in economic dire straits, and they are no longer able to hide it. This is a report from Zero Hedge. It says, officials' economic data of the government always treated with suspicion because we never knew what was going on in China. But now we see that China is struggling. Their nation's troubles with their decline in sales across the world because of all this going on. Also the fact that they're tearing down housing complexes, because I told you a few days ago they're almost in like a Ponzi scheme with a lot of their apartment buildings, and they've overbuilt and they don't have enough money coming in, but they've already spent the money that they have taken from people that supposedly are getting all these homes, but these buildings are not done yet. And now we see the fact that they had to devalue their dollar, their currency the other day, the yuan. They're not piling gold like a lot of other countries are doing, so they don't have a stockpile of gold. And now they're trying to figure out what to do with these tariff situations. It says their house is not in order, and they're going to face an economic crisis. That's why you see such hardball play from them, because they're in dire straits, this report said. It said anyone in the knowledge of understanding China needs America way more than America needs China. And they said until they get on right footing with America, he said, you may see problems in their country. Their men are starting to get very, very anxious and worried about their own jobs. Now, China's government's way different than America's government. And they don't worry about, what the media thinks. They don't worry about their people. If they see protest, I imagine those people won't live much longer. But they're saying their escalation of people getting upset with this administration over in China for not doing business with America because they know they need America is just to put them in economic dire straits. So you think America's market is falling to pieces? No. They said, watch the next few days. If this keeps going on, Trump can hold on. If Trump can hold on, they said it will sink the China economy. And then all of a sudden China will come and try to figure out a better trade deal. So pay attention to that story. That's a big deal. Now that leads us right to one more story I want to pay attention to. Our dollar is struggling. I mean, it really has. It's a 3 or 4 year low. But don't hold it out because there's no other competition to it. The BRICS nations do not have the competition against it. The yuan doesn't. The pound doesn't. So the dollar is the strongest. Now here's the problem, and here's where I want to make sure that we understand. You need to ask yourself, are the banks working for us? Or are they working against us? Is the Fed working for us or working against us? Trump and Bessent is wanting the Fed to lower the rates. They're not. So is it just because they hate Trump? Now, here's another thing. Deutsche Bank and several other bigger banks internationally are wanting to get in the American market. Why? To strengthen our dollar? No. Word is that Deutsche Bank and several other big players want to harm the dollar by getting more into our crypto and buy more Bitcoin into the American markets. They're wanting to make a digitized currency grow. Now the point I'm trying to make with this is, if you allow our dollar to go away, no matter if it's the Trump administration, Biden administration, Harris administration, Obama administration, or the World Economic Forum, it doesn't matter. If our dollar goes away, your freedoms have gone away because now you're under surveilled money when it comes to Bitcoin, and comes to crypto, and comes to any other stable coin. Now, I love the fact that gold is going up. Usually gold going up is not a good sign for the market, but actually for people like me that live in this parallel society that wants to see a stronger currency, what I hope is that Trump comes around and realizes, well dang, maybe we should just think of gold again and forget about all this floating currency that we think that's worth something, and the speculation of Bitcoin going to 100, then back to 80, then back to 87, then back to 80, then back to 100. Do we really want our money so volatile? And the dollar, it's based on the trust of the treasury bonds, the debts that people are wanting. Well, right now, people are not wanting our debts. They're trying to sell them, so therefore our dollar is losing money. So why don't we go back to a new accords and put it back on the gold standard? If we really wanted to strengthen our dollar, truthfully, and make freedom good for Americans, and want Americans to thrive in the world, the call is to put it back on the gold. If you see no leader, including this administration, if Trump's administration does not put it back on gold, and they keep pushing this stable coin and cryptocurrency and this digitized form of money, remember, that is only going to be a surveillance state for some administration at some point in time. Maybe not for the Trump administration, but for administration they are, because guess what? How do you think they found that judge in that gang in New Mexico? ICE is working with certain AI technology from Palantir. How do you think we know what was going on with the submarines yesterday in China? Because of surveillance. How do you know how things are getting done? Look, China just sold seized Bitcoin. You know how they got that? When they say the government, oh, nobody can touch your Bitcoin. China did, and guess what? America has seized Bitcoin as well from bad players. So if you think that your money is safe on some kind of digital exchange, you are sadly mistaken. Cash is king. And if we base it back on the dollar, if we base it back on gold, we could actually see a resurgence and making truly America wealthy and great again. But if we keep pushing back and we keep allowing our dollar to float and we keep balancing it out on debt and trust and on new forms of money, which is digitized like these banks are doing, and the Fed is hurting our dollar even more by not lowering the interest rates, I think what we're going to see is the collapse of our dollar. Not because China, not because any other player, but because our banks may have a different interest in heart. Our administrations, no matter what administration is in power, may have a different interest at heart. Digitized currency seems like it's easy. In a perfect world, it would be just to say, hey, look, tap, it's paid. Tap, it's paid. I don't have to carry a wallet. I'm not going to get broken into. It's great. But we don't live in a perfect world, guys. And the sad thing is, the more that our life, even our money, is put on these kind of things, the less freedom you have. And at any point in time, the grid goes down, it's your money. How do you get your money? What if all of a sudden you're against a government? They can seize your assets. It's happened with America and happened with China. Don't believe it won't happen if all of a sudden we get a liberal ideology in the White House. Pay attention to this. Our dollar is struggling. It's still time to pull it out. We need to base it back on gold. If anything, push your Congress and Senate to quit being weaklings, push our Attorney General to start making arrests, and push our administration to go back to gold and stay away from digitized currencies. Because every bank in the world that's not been strong, that's been shady, that's been international, that's backed the World One, the UN, one world, is pushing for crypto, pushing for digitized currency, even in America. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's videos, from our leaders wanting Arab months to be talked about and nothing about the Resurrection Sunday. What about all these other stories about our money? Pay attention. Do not let your guard down. And hopefully, even though I'm not Catholic, hopefully the Catholic Church will find a better leader than what they had and find a more conservative, truly threadbare Christian. That's what would help religion and Christianity thrive. God bless, guys. Thank you.